Do you have a worm bin or a worm farm? Do you find that sometimes you are so busy that you do not have enough time to look after your worms? Do you wonder, how can I set up my worm farm or my worm bin so that I don't have to be feeding them constantly? You don't want to be feeding them daily. Sometimes you're not able to feed them weekly. So what can you do to set up your worm bin so that you don't have to feed them so often? This is a worm bin that I've just harvested, as you may have seen from my previous video. And this is all the material that is left after I've sifted out the castings. So that's the food source, and that is the worms are in there as well. So the method that I use to ensure that every time I come out here to look after my worms, I only have a little bit to do on each of my bins, because I have roughly 70 worm bins, and looking after those can be quite tedious, consume quite a lot of time. Since as I'm so busy, I don't really have the time to come out and feed worms weekly. I do have to check on them weekly, but if I had to feed them and moisten them and aerate the bin and do everything on a weekly basis, it would have been pretty difficult for me to maintain. So what I do, my bins are fed once until they're harvested. Occasionally I will come and add food scraps to the bin, but my worms are rarely fed food scraps, so that is not their main food source. As you may have seen in one of my videos in the fall, where I was showing how I prepare food in advance for my worms, I parcel out bedding combined with the food source and store them for the entire winter, so that I do not have to worry about doing that in the winter. So this is the bedding and the food source, finished compost, cornmeal and other stuff mixed in. So I fill my bin just a little bit below the surface, and the reason for that is they're gonna be working on this for a month or two, depending on how many worms are in here, the size of the worms, and how many microbes are already in the bin working on the material. So they're going to be working on this for a month or two before I am able to harvest it. So when I prepare my bins like this, giving them enough food source, each week when I come out here, there are two things I have to do: moisten the bin, aerate the bin. Sometimes I don't even need to aerate the bin, but those are the two things that I do each time I come out to maintain my bin. And I try to keep it at that 80% moisture content. I don't want it to be on the drier side, and the reason I don't want it to be on the drier side is because sometimes I am so busy that I really do not have the time to come out here and moisten the bin on the designated days. So when I keep the bin at that 80% moisture content level, then I know that even if I miss a day or two, the bin won't dry out. Even if I miss a week, the bin won't dry out before I can get to the worm. But then and again, that depends on where on my shelf it is, because if it is a portion of the shelf where that is closest to the heat, then those will dry out faster. But yes, this is how I maintain my bin. I feed them food source that will not spoil, and I try to fill the bin as much as possible without it getting too heavy. And then I only have to come out and moisten it and aerate it once per week. So if you enjoyed this video and you find the suggestion in here practical that you can benefit from, then please take a moment to give me a thumbs up. You can leave a comment in the section below. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe and turn on your notification for more updates like these. Thank you so much for watching and have yourself a wonderful day. Yeah man, time for grow.